Welcome to the Australian Business Executive Podcast, where we speak with Australia's most influential industry professionals on the business and economic development issues taking place across the country. You can stay up to date with all our content, including our magazines, podcasts and videos, by visiting www.theabe.com.au and clicking on subscribe.
Today we're speaking with Deirdre Timms, CEO for Advocare. Deirdre has over 20 years executive level management and community development experience in the not-for-profit sector in rural and metropolitan environments. She has managed programs and organizations in the areas of disability, women's health, Aboriginal health, aged care and community care, and international emergency response. She is also a director of Configurable Software Solutions, a director of Older Persons Advocacy Network, and co-chair of Elder Abuse Action Australia. Deirdre is a passionate advocate for social justice and has a Bachelor of Education and is a graduate of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. Deirdre, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Jess, for the opportunity.
Can you give us a bit of background on what Advocare does?
Yes, absolutely. I have to admit, a lot of people are confused about what Advocare does, but we've been around since 1999, and our mission is about protecting and promoting the rights of older people, and we provide a service across Australia. So we often are answering questions about how seniors can access aged and community care, but we also provide advocacy, information and education. And advocacy is about walking alongside a person and supporting the person in their choice. So we're very much directed by the older person. We also provide systemic advocacy, so we are regularly reporting issues up to government on behalf of older people. And we're now part of a very exciting national collaboration called OPAN, or the Older Persons Advocacy Network, and there are 9 members representing states and territories across Australia. So the excitement here is about being able to work collaboratively with colleagues on, getting the best from each of our organisations and building and improving our services for older people.
Okay. When we were originally speaking, you had mentioned that you guys were spun out of Advocare. What facilitated the need to set this up as a standalone business?
Look, back in the late 90s, there was probably some funding around to support older people, and sometimes these projects started in larger organisations who had the resources to establish a program. And then funding was available through what was then called the Home and Community Care Program, which helps older people stay at home. So that is now transitioned into a Commonwealth Home Support Program. Those services are still there and we're still funded through that program.
Okay. So how many people would Advocare support through the work that you do?
Okay, that's an interesting question, and our work is across WA, and so I had a look at our last annual report for the recently finished financial year, and we had just under 8,000 calls to our organisation, and about 10% of those actually relate to elder abuse. We actually staff the WA Elder Abuse Helpline, and we also provide education to community, and we in any one year we reach about 8,000 people. That's in community, it's in residential facilities or at community events where we're providing education sessions on people's rights and on how to access services and also about how to prevent elder abuse. So we provide extensive phone support to people, and we travel to the regions as often as our funding permits, but we can't visit every region every year. We try and build relationships with communities so they are confident to call us and know we're here to help. We had some additional funding recently and we travelled to Kununurra and surrounding areas, and the overwhelming response from people that we visited was, wow, it's fantastic that you've actually come out to see us. So that was great. And so now we've got those networks established. People can ring us and they know who to contact and they know who they're talking to. And, we probably have about 28,000 visitors to our website where we also provide information.
And, this is the first time that we've had the chance to speak with you. And you, my initial question was, what does Advocare do? And you had explained that there were some issues with an understanding. So as Advocare as a brand, is there a large awareness of what you do, or is that still part of your mission to inform people that this service exists?
Yes, we're always informing people, and I take every opportunity to talk about Advocare and the work we do. We're a small team. I've got 6 advocates, and we have a staff of 13. But we try and reach as many people as possible, and our education sessions are about informing people who will also inform other people. So it's that knock-on multiplier effect that we're trying to develop.
Okay. You had mentioned that a lot of people will call in for information, and you're saying that there are opportunities for education. So what is the practical implementation of how Advocare assists people facing the issues that you assist in solving?
Someone will ring us, or a family member might ring, and they might be a bit concerned about services. Or look, to be perfectly honest, a family member will ring up and say, look, Mum really needs some support at home, but we don't know where to start. The aged care system is quite complex, and it's not something that people invest a lot of energy into finding out about until they actually need it, and it's often at crisis point and it's so hard to get into. So we'll provide a lot of information about where to go, how to get this sort of support, what's available. That might be enough for some people. They'll go away, they'll know how to go about getting some support. But for some people, they will ring us with some quite complicated situations where they're not actually getting the care that they need, or they're not satisfied with the care. So we will work with those people to make sure that they're aware of what their rights are and what sort of service they should be getting. We will sometimes act on behalf of an older person and talk to a service provider about, this is what the older person is expecting, and as a service provider, how can you get closer to that for them? Some circumstances may relate to an abuse of a power of attorney, where someone will ring us up and say, look, my son's power of attorney, but I've noticed that the money is disappearing from my bank account. What do I do now? So we'll talk to them about their options. We'll assist them to revoke that power of attorney and find another person who's more suitable to assist them with their financial affairs.
Okay. You're relatively new to the role. You've come on board approximately a year ago. What attracted you to the position, and what is your strategy in terms of taking the organization forward into the future?
Look, I'm absolutely passionate about social justice. I've spent most of my working life supporting vulnerable people, and I see older people as some of the most vulnerable in our community. And older people really deserve a life of dignity. They've actually built the nation we now all enjoy. And this role has given me another opportunity to make a difference. Our strategy moving forward is about engagement. The more people we can engage and make aware of our services and the rights of older people, and the more older people we can reach, the more we can support. So, we've changed, since I've been here, we've changed the way we do our education sessions. We don't simply provide information, we actually work to really engage people, and it's those rich conversations that allow our advocates to really understand the issues facing older people.
Elder abuse has become a much more visible issue in recent years with things like cameras in aged care facilities. Considering the staff of these centres are supposed to be educated and reliable within their roles, why are we seeing such violence occur within an industry that is supposed to aid and provide compassion and care?
So to be perfectly honest, I really struggle to see why, to actually understand why someone would be violent to an older person or why a family member would indeed steal money from their mother or abuse them. The aged and community sector has some wonderful, dedicated, well-trained professional staff. There are some amazing examples of professional support and genuine kindness, but we've also got these pockets of shocking abuse. The federal government has just announced a Royal Commission inquiry into aged care, and my hope is that the Commission will make recommendations to government for a quality service for older people, and that has to be well-resourced and well-funded so that organisations can invest in staff, can provide the training that's required, and they can select the people who have the compassion that's needed to actually work in this sector.
You also mentioned, first of all, for Advocare is based in WA, so I think for a lot of people, they might not fully understand how large the state is relative to its population and potentially getting out and assisting everyone. And when we face an issue of a growing elderly population living longer, what does that do to the mission of your organization, of how you're going to handle this ongoing influx of aging people who are living longer over the coming decades?
We are constantly challenged by resources and having to make decisions about, what is the priority for our service all the time. But at the back of my mind is that, I think we'll be judged on how we treat older people. And to quote others, the standard we walk past is the standard we accept. And mistreatment and poor care of older people is simply not acceptable. And if we actually collected all the taxes owing to government, we would be able to afford to care for our older people. And I think government needs to prioritise that work. I think increasingly those who can afford to pay for care will have to do so that those who don't have the resources can actually get the care they need and really deserve. Yes, we do have a large cohort that will be requiring support, but this is not news. We've known about this for a very long time, but government needs to act now to get the resources in place. And I don't think it's acceptable to have a waiting list of 105,000 people waiting for packages of care. So I'm hoping government will really prioritise the work in this area.
Recently, when we've been speaking with a lot of community-based organization, the introduction of the NDIS is an enormous talking point. Could you give us just a very brief overview for people that might be unfamiliar with NDIS, the issue that it's supposed to solve, and then explain how its ongoing implementation affects an organization like yours?
The principles and philosophy behind the National Disability Insurance Scheme are absolutely commendable. It's about a guarantee of support for those with a disability moving forward. So that means that if you have a disability and you get support under the NDIS, that is a support for life. And that's so important for people with a disability. But it's not come without its challenges, and this is the first time government has been a price setter. So what they're saying is, this is the price we'll pay, and the prices are very low, and it's very difficult to deliver a quality service on minimal dollars. I think it's going to take some time to get this right, and I sincerely hope that there aren't too many people who miss out or suffer along the way. For Advocare, it will mean that we won't be supporting people with a disability because those funds that were traditionally allocated to us have now been absorbed within the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it's now going to be up to states to provide funding for that advocacy. I'm pleased to say WA government have just announced they will provide some funding. But that funding will go to specialist disability support agencies, and Advocare will focus on providing support to older people.
Okay. And before we finish up today, Deirdre, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Oh, look, I'd really like people to be aware of our elder abuse helpline, which is 1300 724 679, and also our general inquiry call number, which is 1800 655 566. And if you have any doubt, just ring us. I mean, I had a wonderful example of a woman who had cut an article out of the paper in January. We're always trying to get information and articles in across all sorts of media, and this woman had cut the article out. It was about elder abuse, but it took her 6 months to get the courage to ring us, and she was saying to us that she must have read that article every week, and she finally had the courage to ring up and say, I think I'm experiencing elder abuse. And so that was a fantastic moment for that woman to have that confidence to call us and for us to be able to support her through mechanisms of how to prevent the elder abuse and what safety things she could put in place.
Deirdre Timms, thank you for your time today.
Oh, thank you very much for the opportunity.
This has been a production of the Australian Business Executive, a division of Romulus Rising Proprietary Limited. All rights reserved. You can stay up to date with the Australian Business Executive, including our magazines, podcasts and videos, by visiting www.theabe.com.au and clicking on subscribe.